Hi everyone, Dr. Schwann here with Dreaming Big. Our guest for this episode is Jeff Yoxall here in the big town of Kensington, Kansas. So Jeff is the superintendent here in Kensington, and I have an interesting relationship with Jeff. He was my high school principal, and I was in his office quite a bit for a lot of disciplinary actions. And Jeff is also very familiar with the foster care system, so we'll talk about that a little bit. But I want to first thank you for coming on the show.
Sure, I'm glad to be here.
And we'll start out with a simple question. Well, it's one that seems simple, but it really never is. We'll start out. Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am currently the superintendent at USD 110 Thunder Ridge Schools. I'm also the high school principal and the K-3 principal. So I have a lot of hats that I wear every day, and there's a lot of things that go on that I get to deal with in a day, but it's a very enjoyable job. I've been here a lot of years, and great communities involved here, great people, and it's probably one of the reasons why we've had a pretty successful go with most of our students and our foster students who have been here, and we're very proud of that, and I think it's something that we have really focused on over the years, and now it's just become the norm. So it's a really good thing.
Well, and you brought up the community, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to come out here and talk to some of the great people here, because it's one of the things that, as a former foster child moving here to Kensington, it was the thing that really saved my life. And you know, as a foster child, you're raised in all these disadvantages, you know, and coming here, it was just something about this place was just great, you know, the values, everything about this place. Even though as a kid, you know, you struggle, and then you don't really want all this stuff, all the structure. And I was talking to some of the other people from here in Kensington about that, but it was one of those things that was just great. There was something about it, and I kept coming back to it. And then you know, I got to meet great people like you, even though, you know, you had to slap me behind the head quite a bit, you know, and get me in line. But you know, just sitting there in the office with you all, you know, getting, you know, you're feeding off all this great wisdom that I don't know why no one else is coming here to try to find some of this wisdom. But I just want to start the show. Let's talk a little bit about maybe the community. Let's talk the community on maybe why you think the community does such a great job in, and let's just talk foster care then. You know, getting all these, you know, these foster children going in the right direction.
Well, I think part of it is the fact that we've had to grow and evolve over time. And there was a period of time where I think, you know, because we're a small school, that having quite a few foster kids in the beginning was somewhat challenging for people, because they really didn't know what to understand. You know, they really didn't understand it. They didn't know for sure what to expect. But you know, time has a way of taking care of things like that, and I think this community realized that these are our kids. These are our kids. They're not foster kids, they're our kids. They're kids who are in our school, and that is what makes the difference. You have to believe that there is no difference between that child who's coming through school than any other child. And you have to take those labels and you have to throw them away. Because if you don't do that, what you end up having is a situation where people continue to let that be a roadblock. And you can't have that as a roadblock, because these kids deserve everything that every other kid does. And some of the kids do come in with challenges, but so do other kids. It doesn't matter where they come from, it's just trying to deal with that. And this community is really a great community. And then the communities that are involved in our school throughout a fairly large area that we cover here. And I love the way people have responded and how much they care and how they take these kids under their wings. And it's just been a very good experience for me. It makes my job a lot easier.
So, and you brought up that you treat the kids just like you would treat any other normal kid, and I think that's lip service that a lot of people provide for foster care, but somehow you guys, it's not lip service. So I guess, how do you guys actually do it? So how do you, instead of just saying we do it, how do you actually do it?
You know, I think we have a lot of good support. We've had very active social workers here in our community who have done a great job with our kids, and there's a lot of communication, and there's been a lot of communication. It's almost now as if you kind of forget all the things that you did to get here and all of the struggles that you had to get here. But I think one of the things that you have to have is very caring people. And like in our school district, I feel like our staff has really taken the responsibility of making sure that our kids have the best opportunities possible. You know, a lot of times when you live in a place where you have very few people and the population is small, and I mean, we only have 70 kids in high school, and you know, in big school districts will look at that and go, holy cow, you know, that's crazy. But you know, when you live in a rural area, that's what you have, and I think that gives the kids an opportunity to be involved. And so a lot of our foster kids, when they come here, they are involved. They're involved in athletics, they're involved in music. They do not walk down the hall without being noticed and being talked to. And they are just another kid in our system, and we love that fact. And I think that's really important. You cannot let kids hide in the woodwork someplace. They have got to be noticed. They have got to know that they're important. And it doesn't mean every day is going to be easy, and it doesn't mean that there won't be struggles, but there's always someone there who knows what's going on and trying to help the kids. And I'm sure at times, as you said, there's people right there all the time, and maybe you feel like there's too much structure. That structure is critical. And if we don't have that, there's no way it's ever going to change.
No, that's really good stuff, and that is what I was thinking of, like the community that you need that. Like you just said, Kensington has embraced it, and yeah, something is special here, and that's really what I'm trying to uncover. What is that special thing? And I think we're slowly finding it out. I think too, but we're going to take a brief commercial break. When we come back, let's talk a little more about foster care, and I want you to think of, if I'm Jeff Yoxall and I'm in charge of foster care for a day, what would I do? Or if you had a magic wand, what would you do? Something like that. But we'll take a brief commercial break, and then we come back more with Jeff Yoxall. All right, welcome back, everyone, to Dreaming Big. We're here with our last part of interview with Jeff Yoxall. And Jeff, before the commercial, we were talking about the community, and we're talking foster care, so let's continue that discussion. And as I said before the break, if you were in charge of foster care for a day, or you had a magic wand, what would you do?
Well, I don't think I'd want to be in charge of it, but if I had a magic wand, I think the thing that's really important for these young people is that they are able to be maintained in the same foster home as long as possible, unless they can be reintegrated with their families, which is the best possible thing if everything works out. But when they can be in a foster home for a period of time, and we can keep them in the same school district for a period of time, then they feel like they have some ownership and they feel like they're a part of something. And I looked yesterday and back at the different classes over the last years, and we've had at least one foster student almost every year who's graduated from high school, and sometimes there'll be multiple students. And I think that's a credit to the fact that we have people working in all areas trying to make this work. We have good foster parents, we have good social workers, we have good teachers, we have good community people. You have to have all of those things working together. And we know people here, and so people, like I said, don't get lost in the shuffle, and that's what's happening with our students. So my magic wand would simply be give these kids some stability. Stability is important, because when they feel like they don't have that, that's when they struggle, and that's when they act out. And I can't blame them, because it can't be easy.
Yeah, I think anyone put in that situation and they're moving back and forth, how could you not? You get in this sense of, it's called learned helplessness too, and you're just helpless to the situation and you're just going with the flow. And but I think as we're talking here, I think we're really slowly uncovering what you all are doing here. And it's amazing that just simply communicating and talking to people actually helps. So I think, you mentioned with the teachers, the social workers, even the church community, and you are all talking, and you all know who these kids are. And I guess, is there any behind the scenes talking that you all do to, hey, let's help this kid? Like, is there anything that you do when you talk, or is it just normal?
I think it's more normal than anything else now. But when the conversations need to take place, they take place. And of course, here at the school, that's where most of our conversations take place. But we also have a lot of different people who come in every day, and those conversations are held and try to keep things, as smooth as possible. But, one of the things I thought about, even in the best of times, in the best, most stable homes, I remember as a kid, I was going to run away. I was upset with my parents, I was going to run away. Well, I think I got 5 steps out into the yard and turned around. But you think about that, I knew when I walked a few steps away that I was going to leave that stability. And when that happens, you have nothing. And I think that's what sometimes happens to a lot of our young people in foster care. They feel like they have nothing when they walk away, or if they're shuffled around, and the trust factor becomes very difficult for them. And it's understandable, because who do you trust when you're not able to have anyone there for you all the time? And so it's difficult.
If you're moving around all the time, and especially getting late in the teenage years, I remember that, it's hard to get that trust. Somehow, I remember my situation, somehow I was able to, I guess if there was any community I trust, I didn't trust my family, but I trusted people back here. I would look at someone asked me the other day if I looked at social workers or anyone in the system as enemies. I was like, well, I don't think enemies, but it was probably close to it. But you can't look at them enemy if they're the same people that one moment you're telling them I hate you, and the next moment you're like, but what can I do to get better? Give me some advice. So
Right.
I think it's one of those where you guys were able to show me that trust, and I trusted you enough. I'd curse you out and act up, but then I would come back and okay, now that I got slapped in the face, now what can I do? Any advice for another community, another like that needs to do a better job?
Well, I think embrace the challenge for one thing, and also to understand that we're here, especially in our school districts, to help kids. And I know every school district has different challenges, and they're fighting all kinds of different things that we're trying to help kids with. And I think if you just have to be there and care, and you have to communicate. There's nothing more important than that. If you don't communicate, it's not going to happen. Or if you want to dig your heels in and say, hey, we're not going to do this, we don't want to mess with this, you're never going to get anywhere. And I think that happens a lot. I remember you coming in the office and maybe had gotten upset or something, and we had all kinds of conversations. And I found over the years that I've had to change the way I think about dealing with students. And I found that you've got to really show the respect to the student so that they'll respect you. And if all you're doing is hammering them and getting after them and yelling at them, you will make no progress whatsoever. It doesn't work with kids, especially today. It might have worked when I was a kid because there was somewhat of a different way we looked at things, but today that doesn't work. And if you can get that respect, and if you get those kids know that at least when you do something, it's going to be fair and it's going to be so they can trust you the next time, then I think you can get somewhere. And then you break down that barrier so that you can actually have that conversation with that student. And that's important. And it doesn't happen with every kid, but when it does happen, it's pretty magical. And then hey, we've gotten past that barrier, and now not only will that student trust me or trust that teacher, whoever it is, but they'll trust most people who are honest and respectful of them.
Oh, that's a great point. And I think we'll the last comments there were powerful, and I think we'll end the show on that note. Yeah, that's great advice, and I encourage any school district, any community listening to this to hopefully take heed of your advice right there, because there's some really magical stuff going on here, Kinskin, and I don't know, magical's probably not the right word, but maybe it is. But with that, I want to thank you for coming on the show. This is really fun. So
thank you. It's nice to see you again.
Yeah, you too. It's always fun to come back here. So, but thanks for everyone for tuning in to this episode of Dreaming Big, and God bless the United States of America.